what I know for a fact is I'm just going to make every effort that I possibly can to create the right conditions and an environment that my body is going to perform.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a performance job.
Mm-hmm.
You're a performance job. I don't care what you do.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a performance. You're in performance.
One thing I believe is our lives go, and why a lot of Americans are dying faster is because they're not growing in a dynamic way according to their calling and according to their purpose. And I'm a big proponent of we are to be stewards of this life that we've been given. It's a miracle that we've got it.
The greatest machine you'll ever own.
Welcome to the David Leifeste Show, where we capture conversations with true pathfinders, people who crack the code on living their best life. I'm your host, David Leifeste, 40-year coach and counselor, and this is where we explore the possibility of you and the life you're searching for. Hey, it is a pleasure to get to have one of my best friends and one of the most highly respected healthcare professionals in the region, if not the country, Dr. Matt Griswold.
Thanks.
And I'm so thankful you'd come over this morning and visit with me. I feel like you have so much to share. I can't get to the bottom of it. So every time I'm talking with you, I want to get more. I want to know more. Mm-hmm. And so I thought if we could, over time, I'd bring you back on and we could continue to share, because it's you spent your life as an adult pursuing and understanding health, right? It's been about how to do
function, health, physiology, how do things operate?
Yeah. So
brain works.
Yeah. So with that, you went the direction of chiropractic medicine as your a way to kind of do all of that as a professional. Mm-hmm. And why did you pick chiropractic as an approach? Because I know you have a passionate and specific belief about why it's uniquely got its benefits.
I think that everybody has a story or a thing that they're supposed to show up to do, right? Like there's an innate story that they're developed for, and then something happens in their family, and then the next thing happens, and all of a sudden that makes the fabric that is you. So for me, my mom had back surgery. She had it twice. And when the person that takes care of you has to spend time on the couch because of a procedure or a surgery, or you begin to wonder, like, what operationally was wrong with her? In other words, like, what was the function that was dysfunctioning? Am I keen to have one of those dysfunctions? Why do we have to have the procedures? Why the back pain? Why the disability back pain? Like all the things. And so,
so mom's injury or medical problem really kind of woke you up to kind of try asking these questions and trying to figure out like why and what's behind all that and how we can maybe avoid it.
Well, I think that it definitely made me question as to why, when we have an issue, we have to cut the thing out. What's wrong with her? What was wrong with her? Why do we have to replace it, add to it? And so I kind of fell into chiropractic here because of my own mom. I wanted to help people avoid what I had to see and what she has had to go through. Mm-hmm. She just last year had another procedure, and that's kind of how that game goes, right? Mm-hmm. And that's not anything. Thank God for the surgeons that are doing the surgery that needs to happen. But sometimes I feel like there's other alternatives. And if you don't know, you don't know.
It's not sometimes. There's a lot of times, aren't there? Yeah, because it's...
and it's like you want to be able to try all of the things because it's such a procedure is so serious and so final. There's always back to that procedure, but there's always things that you can do leading up that may make a change.
Yeah.
And so that's why I went into chiropractic. But when you go into chiropractic, you start to study the physiology and you start to study how the body works and the functionality of how the body works. And I think that you and I have had conversations about how interesting and blessing that this machine that we get to operate with is. Mm-hmm. And so I found a newfound respect on, well, hold on. If the spine is supposed to articulate and move functionally, and it doesn't, there's a restriction, over time, there's going to degenerate the spine. That's going to, this is just a fact, just as real as gravity. So what would happen if somebody allowed that spine to unlock? What would happen to the body is that the body would be able to respond because it was created the right conditions and the right environment, and the body does what it's supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's why we've had success in my practices, is that it all comes back down to a very simple principle that if you create the right conditions and the right environment, the body's going to do what it's have to do.
So all of the, you talked about the physiology, obviously, and the approach to chiropractic as your choice of how to go into health and how to go into people not having experiences like your mom with surgeries. Was because about the spine and getting it open and getting it aligned and getting it unlocked, how impactful that is to our function and how it affects everything else in the body.
Yeah.
Right.
So the interesting thing was that was the gateway drug to get me into the chiropractic profession. And then when you start to begin to understand what neurology does and how you can affect the neurology of the spinal cord, you can affect the neurology of the brain, you can affect the neurology of how the body and organ systems are working using a spinal adjustment. That's when it becomes really exciting stuff.
Yeah, I don't think people realize, of course, most of us, unless you go into science, either in your own studies or in your own major for going into college or whatever, you don't study your actual body.
Yeah.
You never get basic functional knowledge about physiology and anatomy to realize things like this. And that one spinal cord and everything else that goes out from it, right?
Yep.
Up into the brain and into the arms for your circulation and into your bone. I mean, it's just the whole central nervous system that impacts everything. And so what other type of approach could one take if you were to be a healthcare provider where you could have impact on all of it unless you worked on that?
Yeah.
And you wanted to do it non-surgically and avoid that since, of course, mom's situation was so awful and has continued to go on for years. Maybe you could do that with prevention. Maybe you could do that with keeping people on a regular basis in, maintenance care that they could learn to work with their body and prevent those kinds of problems by working the most powerful zone possible with the spinal cord.
But what I found in practice is what I could see when you take a patient and you take them that's having let's say, a child that's on spectrum. So you take someone and you calm their nervous system by the adjustment, right? But like at the end of the day, like you can see the symptomatology and you can see the result of the adjustment or multiple adjustments. And then what we did is we systemized it to where said we're going to take an x-ray of every single person so that we can specifically identify where and what is causing this issue. So for instance, in the mid-thoracic spine, in the T-spine, like between your shoulder blades, the nerves that come out of there go to what's called the pyloric sphincter. That's the little flap on your stomach that seals off acid reflux, right? If we take an x-ray and we can see that that's rotated to the left and you're having acid reflux and I make that adjustment, would it not make sense that there's a huge possibility that that muscle would seal down and not allow the acid to come back up? So it becomes not about a guess. In my profession, I call those guys pop and praise. I don't want to push on someone's spine and not know what we're doing and what are we trying to achieve. So I think what happens to happen in my profession that has really opened a lot of the eyes of the people, including yourself, that of what we do or what I do, is that if we take an x-ray, we measure the x-ray, then we look at the x-ray and say, this correlates with these symptoms. Can we rotate this segment and make that nerve work it's supposed to? It's kind of like electrical engineering for the human body. Right. And it becomes, I don't want to say a game, but it becomes this magical thing that is that electrical system that you have, that I have, that God blessed us with, that gets to work. The right conditions in the right environment. You give a plant water and sunshine, it's going to grow. You move a spinal bone and the nerve opens up. Whatever that nerve is functioning is going to change. It has to. You mentioned your x-rays because you talked about some other doctors that are in your space that just aren't really as thorough and comprehensive in their initial analysis. And that is key to yours, is to get that information so that when you do what you do, you can actually measure what happens and what changes. And you increase your odds and your probability significantly on doing your work strategic to the end goal. And so that's really key. To see is to know. Everything else is to guess. Like I don't want to, let's know. Let's test it. Let's figure it out. Let's measure it. I think that then you know where you're going. my personality and your personality, we don't have time to wait for those things. Let's just go. Let's figure out what we're doing and go towards the end goal.
Well, and because of your personality, speaking of that, you haven't just stopped with working just on the spine. You've added ancillary services that support that work. So you've added the red light therapy, you've added the hyperbaric work, and the what are some of the other kinds of things?
So I think that
functional health, comprehensive functional health issue pieces.
You start with. I started taking care of patients, chiropractic patients. You start with like neurological disorders. You start with things and functions, and then you also obviously you get the average headaches, migraines, all of that stuff, and then you start seeing people. And when your heart is for serving the people, you start to look at other things that can help them more. And what had happened there for me is I lost my father in 2020 to a really rare liver cancer, and it happened like in 6 months he passed away.
So sorry.
No testing, no nothing. And so what began to make me wonder is like, well, if we're throwing, and I take like a gazillion supplements, you know what I mean? Like I've got like 8 cabinets full of supplements. And so I began to wonder.
We're not going to talk about his obsessive compulsive disorder yet.
That'll be another episode possibly. And so it began to make me wonder, like, what do you do? What are you supposed to take? What am I supposed to take? Is it the same thing that David's supposed to take? Why? All of these things.
Yeah, that's definitely confusing.
It really, and it is.
Yeah.
And so I just applied what we do at the office with the chiropractic care. So we started to test people's stool and send it off to a lab, getting feedback back. And then we would read to them what their vitamins are. We'd see results, myself included. My spouse, we started with her, and myself, we always start everything at home. And then we did urine tests, and these help tell us what neurotransmitters, how the brain is functioning. It shows up in the urine, and we can create supplementation for that. Then from there, it just kind of snowballed into, we use red light therapy. We have a couple of what I would call superhuman rooms, and there's a PEMF bed where you lay, and then you get red light therapy on top, and then after that we add oxygen to you. So
PEMF, what's that?
Pulse electromagnetic frequency. This is a mat that actually changes your nervous system, calms you down.
So you found everything there is that's available to help. Really, once you get their alignment set and you've gotten their information on what they need for neurotransmitters and what they need for, hormones and what they need for this, because everything's about assessment. You're doing a lot of assessments, so we know what supplements will support us as we're getting aligned and getting constantly taken care of. Right, what we need for if we need to have hormonal adjustments or whatever, and then this
PEMF.
PEMF.
This is like the biggest, baddest grounding mat that you could ever be on. The equivalent of laying on this mat for 20 minutes would be like walking with your bare feet in the grass for 8 hours. So what it does is it actually grounds you into the ground. So we use those superhuman rooms. The protocol is really earth, air, and light. So we use a grounding, then we give you oxygen, and we give you red light. All of these are creating the right conditions and environment so that the body can do what it's supposed to do.
And if all of you that are watching are wondering why Matt looks 24 and I look 36, is because we do these things and you live these things. So tell us a little bit about how you apply. You talked about how you and your wife Claire start everything at home with being the lab rats for everything as you started. You have built this into a lifestyle. You don't just do this to others and sell it to the rest of us. You live it. What is your application of all this in your own personal journey?
To stand behind a product, you've got to do the product. To stand behind, like you can't read the research papers and you can't look at the things, and especially if you are a healthcare practitioner and you see a volume of people, you talk to a lot of people in a day, you can disseminate bad information or you can disseminate really good information. And so in our family and how we do things, we're right now testing a machine that's popular in Europe. So we always have something going. I have red lights all over, but where I really started at the home, and it's still used, all of these devices, we sleep on a grounding sheet. So we have a grounding mat next to it. When I'm overstimulated, I'll lay on that. Next to my bed is, it looks like a laboratory, is a large red light. That's the full body red light. This is really good for resetting circadian rhythms, helping you meditate, helping you breathe. If you are a male and it gets exposed to your genitalia, it will increase your testosterone. There's research studies that show these things. So I have one of those over my bed. The supplementation, we wake up, we have supplements. The kids have things that we set out for them. What I know for a fact is I'm just going to make every effort that I possibly can to create the right conditions and an environment that my body is going to perform. I'm a performance job. You're a performance job. I don't care what you do. You're in a performance. You're in performance. You have to sit here and perform and be able to let the neurons fire, let your body work. And I think that there's combinations of understanding.
Well, I don't want to interrupt, but when you talk about having to perform, you have a unique set of demands that most of us don't have. So when this is all working to help you function, the rest of us are definitely going to be covered because you are touching and working your energy into the energy of other people's bodies by the hundreds per week. So there's no other profession that I can imagine that any of us could compare ours to, where you're exerting and where you are, exchanging energy, where you're physically, mentally, emotionally attached to other human beings in the way that you are. And so you're a great guinea pig because you're the most extreme, I think, in terms of performance of what it takes you're trying to get out of your body on a regular basis, and you're keeping everything going. So what do you think is unique about that, by the way? Because I always thought it's really interesting that there's so much energy in us as humans, right? And a lot of the people that you're working with have a lot that's not very positive in their energy, right? Because it's not healthy, right? They're down, they're out, they're despondent, they're hopeless, right? They're hurting, there's pain. And you're a very intuitive man, very sensitive man, and you're actually, kind of like Christ touching the people for their healing. You're working them and having that exchange of energy pull on you. How do you, what interesting little thing can you tell us, being the person who is on your side of the table, working on us, about how that impacts you?
Yeah. I don't think I've ever shared that, at least in a public format. When everybody has an energy, everyone has a feeling, right? We see often 100 people a day, and all those people aren't happy. All those people are going through something, and you can, and a lot of times, I hold my stress on my shoulders. I hold my stress, and so I feel it, I see it, I touch it, and you feel those things. I think and this is applicable to someone that doesn't have to run into that many people in a day. I think what helps me help them is that it has to come from a place of compassion and love. And I also believe that, for me, I have to check myself in the morning for gratitudes, and then I have to wash it off in the evening. And so
I was going to say, so some of your rituals are, and one of them is you're very diligent in the morning.
Have to
be very focused on gratitude, trying to build up the energy with gratitude, build up the day's kind of focus from a place of abundance and what is working, what is good.
I think it all ties back to my philosophy, though, because I think that if you know that you're just creating the right conditions and environment for this patient to heal like they're supposed to, then you take a little pressure because you're not God. You can't make them heal. You create the thing and it does what it does. My prayer every morning is, Lord, let these hands do your work. Let them go where they're supposed to. Let my mouth speak your words and let me be a vessel for your love. These are the same things that I chant before I see a patient. It's my last two things before I go hands on somebody. And then at the end, my family knows how this game works. I come into the house and I kiss the kids and directly into the shower. I wash all of their stuff off. And from a hygiene perspective, because 100 people can be gross, but also from an energy perspective. I don't want the things that I took on, the feelings, the people that have had loss, the people that have had happiness. I want to come home, cleanse myself, and then show up for the family as daddy. And the only way that I can do that that I found is to be able to actively switch that role, change, take a shower, change the clothes, and then show up as a different person.
See, these are examples of how I wrote my book about the Oasis person, right? That's my acronym for being open, analytical, sensing, and having really creative ideas that lead to shift. You are constantly a person who is operating in that creative, open, adapting, brilliant shift mode. Because, for example, to get started that way and end that way, that's innovative. You sensed a need to do that. That's not taught in chiropractic school.
No.
And then to set these things up in your house and kind of work on how you can improve you and your family and learn and then think for yourself, oh, if we're going to do this, let's do that. If we're going to do that, let's do this. And then, oh, why don't I add retreats? Why don't I help people go off and get away so we can I want to do a father-son retreat so that it can help their relationship. And why don't we go ahead and work on how we can do, what's one of the latest? Oh, your coaching of other chiropractors so they can know how to apply these things too. You just keep expanding in how to apply and share and enhance what you've learned. And that is a sign of a dynamic, open Oasis personality. And so I've always really felt like you're a great poster boy for that philosophy of being open and allowing the talents, the ideas, the instincts, the inspiration to continue to expand. One thing I believe is our lives go and why a lot of Americans are dying faster is because they're not growing in a dynamic way according to their calling and according to their purpose. And you are a very specific example of someone who is showing constant growth and working that philosophy. And therefore, your body has to be able to support your vision. And to be able to act on that, to be able to implement from that.
Create the energy.
And have the energy to actually do it. So it's a wonderful, physiology and anatomy because that's what you studied. You've applied it in your practice. You've applied it in your family. You've then continued to expand on how that can be used to fulfill purpose. And then you continue to generate the energy for the purpose. And that keeps things interesting, keeps things growing, keeps things getting more comprehensive. And there's very few people that I've ever seen really do that. And I'm really, really impressed with that. So I love that we can kind of break that down with you and go, how are you doing it? And then realize that all of us can do it as we take care of ourselves. And you're giving us a model to be able to do the physical part so we can do our personal part in our own lives. So I just want to thank you for that because it's a lot of work. You're always thinking and you're always learning and you're always growing and you're always adding more to the mix. At 918 Chiropractic, which is your business name, right?
Yep.
Matt Griswold, we can go into that space and that entire assessment can happen from our brain to our hormones to everywhere in between, so that we know strategically and specifically what we need in order to optimize our health and strengthen our body and up our energy to be able to then support the dreams we have for our lives, to be able to love the people we love, to go where we want to go, and to bring and do what we're here to do.
Yeah.
And so I constantly think if we don't have the health, all the rest of the stuff that we want to do in life is going to be undermined and is going to be sabotaged. And trying to stay healthy in today's culture in America with the 75% of the food being junk, right?
Terrible.
And all of the air and water pollution, the stress, the ways that our soul's being zapped by social media and politics. And you have to be very intentional. We have to be very strategic and very diligent to ward all that off and to proactively, strategically set out in the types of habits and rituals and health care of ourselves to be able to stay up for the game and play it well and win.
Right.
And I'm a big proponent of we are to be stewards of this life that we've been given. It's a miracle that we've got it.
The greatest machine you'll ever own.
I mean, it's beyond comprehension when you think of the creation, isn't it, as you've studied it? Us and the whole cosmos and everything else. And then all the people that have gone before us for the years and years and years, hundreds of years, so that we even have the opportunities we have today to do a good life, right? So I think that's why people need to know more about the kinds of things you do, because there's very few ways to do it on our own. Mm-hmm. There's too much information coming at us. It's very confusing. I think now more than ever, we don't know what to believe, and we don't know how to go about putting a life habit health plan together.
Sure.
And you're kind of there at the top to give us that direction and that plan.
I think it also, you can apply and pull it back all the way. That's why the Oasis method works so well, because you can look at it from your own health initiatives. You can look at, okay, I'm going to be open and observe. I don't like this. This makes me feel like this. When I consume or do this thing, it makes me feel like this. And then we can functionally apply every piece of the acronym to your health or to how you're functioning. You're going to assess it. I don't like, and then I'm going to sense, what do I feel intuitively, what is happening and what am I feeling in my body. Yeah. And so I think that it comes all the way back to, for me, and thank you for the kind words, by the way.
That's true. You're welcome.
The Oasis method for me, and this is how I really think about it, is I think about, you take this backpack that we all carry around, whether it's the health stuff that we've got going on, the problems, the concerns, etc., the life things that we've got going on, and you apply the Oasis method by taking those things out of the backpack and looking at them and saying, I'm going to keep this. Oh, no, I want that. We'll keep that. And you just kind of make it fit. And the same thing fits for how you apply your health initiatives. In other words, you could do the red light and the PEMF and take all the vitamins and drink all the water, but if you and then not meditate, and you're still missing a piece, and then you get overwhelmed. It's like, what does your life need? What does it not need? And what are you willing to apply to make it work so that you can create the shift to get to the place that you want to go?
And that's a perfect example and description of personal responsibility, stewardship for your health. A lot of times we've heard in church and different kind of places about stewardship, if you're a person who goes to church, whatever, and that's usually about your money. But stewardship is about managing all your resources. And your health is your resource that you've been specifically given responsibility to manage.
For yourself.
Yes. And then as you take care of it, and thank you for applying the Oasis method, which is from my book, The Possibility of You, which is I'm trying to help us let the fullness of the possibility of us get cultivated, get maintained, and get delivered to this world. Because we all have contributions to make. We all have really interesting lives that we can have. And we've got to be able to have a vehicle, right, that we can depend on, and energy in the vehicle, the fuel, to be able to deliver that life. So the Oasis acronym is that process of how you assess that and how you continue to work very much tuned in a dynamic way, in an informed way, on how to work with your body, with your life, with your resources to continue to support that process. And so I don't know any other place I can step into in the country. I'm sure I could find if I looked out in Europe and everywhere else, where we could go over to 7th and Utica or your location in Owasso, and we could go in and have that full comprehensive support team and all of the different methods that you can have, and the different, I don't know what you call the
protocols,
methods and protocols, so that we could be supported strategically in our stewardship to be able to do it better than we could with your place and with your vision and how you applying the Oasis, not that you were applying it as a conscious thing. The thing about what most people don't realize is people that make great things happen live that way innately. You unconsciously you are naturally open and observant. You're naturally analyzing constantly, dynamically, what you think you're understanding as you're observing and what's working and what's not. Then you are sensing on a spiritual level and on a psychic level what you're seeing and deciding what seems right, where you get your peace, your convictions, your clarity,
Feels best.
which then leads to next innovative ideas. That's the I part of that leads to constant S of what's the next shift, right? So that you're shifting up, shifting out, shifting forward, shifting to better.
Yep.
And that's the goals constantly, that we're shifting. That when we're making our shifts, the shifts are carrying us forward. And if we have a setback, that we're getting bigger and stronger as we work through it, that it's always leading to growth, leading to more specific application of us becoming why we're here in a more effective way. I think so many people aren't happy in their lives because they're not living according to who they are actually, and they're not clear about that, and they're not honest with themselves about it, or they don't understand that. So to get to that and then be able to execute on that is a game changer on how life works. So you have everything we need there at 918 Chiropractic to support us in our efforts to do that. And I am just so grateful for your work. That's a masterpiece. It's a Michelangelo masterpiece of putting it all together and sculpting a process and a place for us to be able to get the support we need for this endeavor.
I think it's also, and I didn't know it until you just hit me there. What we do at the office is just Oasis a little bit reversed, right? Like this is the shift that I want to make, and these are the things that we have to do to get you there, and to be able to stack those things in. And so I also wanted to highlight the fact that if you're catching this, and you haven't read the book, but two, read the book. But
Which book?
Yours, The Possibility of You, the Oasis Method. It's got a beautiful cover. It's white. You'll love it.
What's the name of it? Oh, The Possibility of You. Yeah, the Oasis Method to Unlocking a Life of Purpose and Passion. Oh, that one. Okay, I wasn't sure. Yeah.
What ends up happening is exactly what you said. If you've worked with you long enough, or you've done that method long enough, or you've applied it to your life long enough, is it doesn't show up as a systematic approach. It shows up as how you look and observe and see and create the shifts, and then say, oh, this doesn't feel right. I need to make these moves. It becomes innate. And I love that you were able to take some innate process that we already do. And that's the hardest thing in the world to do, right? Is to be able to say, here's an innate process and how I make decisions or how I create things. How do I label it and give it subsections to be able to identify what step I think that, we've worked together for 6 or 7 years now. I was thinking about on the way over here. I think that over time, almost every session we've had, you've applied the Oasis method too. And then I walk out like on cloud 9 because I know that I'm going to make a shift, because I know for a fact I've identified why I need to make the shift and what is going to feel good here.
Where you've gotten stuck,
That's it.
Where something's off in the process. Yeah, and not, when you said everyone operates that some operate it innately. You do, and most of us do not. And I just tried to teach us how to do what other people who are innately wired like you are can become more consciously and more intentionally that way. Yeah. Right? Because a lot of people overcome and do big, amazing things. And a lot of us stay small and stay stuck and stay locked up and stay depressed. And we don't do it innately. And I don't know why it lands in certain temperaments the way it did with yours, your mother's crisis, just your personality, the DNA. But all I did was help you become conscious of how you already roll, and then keep you accountable as an outside objective person to where you sometimes are emotionally sabotaging yourself. Yeah. Because see, you're very emotional as a passionate man. And every person who really operates in doing big things in the world, they're usually passionate people. And so they carry and have a lot of sensitivity. That sensitivity sometimes gets in the way because you'll feel things in such a way that it will be not as objective.
Yeah.
Right. And so what we do is I come in and we just do, I go over to your place and you do your adjustments, and you come to my place and I do your adjustments. And I say, I think you're, Matt, just having a little bit of, you're stuck here because you're having a narrative here about that particular part of where you're stuck that's got you being a little dramatic, and you're being a little too martyristic and a little bit too this. And I think you might want to clean that up. That's kind of where I think you're stuck, and you're using up too much energy, and it's got you reactive. And now you're out of the oasis process. You're out of your flow. You're out of the part of how, when everything works optimally, you're blocking it. You're obstructing it. You're in some way undermining it. And humans, by nature, are constantly with our emotions, with our sensitivity, with our stress, with our narratives that aren't accurate. We are undermining and sabotaging, obstructing, blocking, and locking up our lives from working in that flow. So you go take all the physiology and get it flowing. We come over here, we do the mental, emotional, psychologic that allows that to be supported and not sabotaged.
Yeah.
And then voila, we go out and we optimize all the conditions for bringing the best self to the world, have the best time doing it. It's interesting, it's dynamic, and we can constantly be able to show up in it because we're equipped in our bodies to do it.
Well, we all have these two people, the physical man and the spiritual, soulful man, right? Or woman. And if you're not, like, you could do all the things on the healthcare side and miss out on the emotional and the therapy, like having a therapy and having conversations that are helping you move the needle to change your emotions and your perspectives. If you're not doing both, though, there's two wings of the bird, right? And you cannot, I don't know if you guys have ever seen a bird try to fly with one wing. It doesn't work. So you have to have both sides of the bird to be able to fly like you're supposed to. And that's where our relationship is really shown for me, and what we're trying to do, and what I suggest any other entrepreneur, or if you're not sitting with someone intently, having conversations about what you're feeling and how you're perceiving it, you're missing a huge piece of what your next level, that's the next level unlock. That was the next level unlock for me. It was like, look, I can learn about the physiology and I can read the research and get all the expensive devices that poke you, prod you, shine lights on you and whatever. But if I don't handle the mental, emotional side of what's happening inside of me, who cares? I'm just out there running in circles and just have all the weird device. You know what I mean? It's not working.
Yeah. Well, the human part of us that gets emotional and gets personalized about everything, right, has a tendency to lack objectivity, right? So as a result, it'll go into feeling it instead of thinking it in a way that then will block that affects the interpretation of any given situation in life. It's never more clear than it is in sports. We finally have seen in the last 20 years, people are now admitting and that they've been seeing sports psychologists, right?
Yeah.
And the people that were winning in the Olympics, the people that were winning, the teams that were winning, we start finding out they had psychology people that they had hired. They probably had coaches.
Yeah.
And in the coaching, that got into how they're living their lives. That got into their attitudes. It got into how they approach when they're stressed and when the game is intense, their anger, their ego, right? And when they address those things, those are the winning teams.
Yeah.
Those became the ones we're now interviewing on ESPN. Those are the ones who were on the Olympics have the gold. Those are the ones, if we probably went over and talked to, Spain about how they just won the soccer tournament, we were going to find out that they had people working with how they manage the emotional side of who they are, because there's so much impact on how that operates and how that affects physical. And I love when we use sports, because we see it actually on the field, in the game, with the score. And that's a metaphor for kind of life.
It is this is the new performance.
Mm-hmm.
Like this life is the new performance mechanism. And I think people in the past very short period of time, even since COVID, have really looked at their health as how do I create the best performance? That's what we're seeing currently in my offices. That's what I'm sure you're seeing in here is it's about, hey, I'm sure I know people have to come and do grief and all the other things, but I sought you not because I was going through grief, but because I knew that you were coaching some of the heaviest hitters that were in the area. And I want to go, well, what is he telling them on that couch? And I want to sit on that couch. Because I know for a fact I have to be a part of both. And I have to service the physical man and the spiritual and emotional man. Because you can have the same two guys with the same amount of muscle mass and have different motivations, and they're going to achieve two different results.
Well, I love that. And I appreciate your kind words on that. I always feel like the people that come to see me really are so far beyond me. I love to be in the front row coaching top performers like you, because I get to watch what happens next. And it is a constant, like, talk about performance. It's the growth and momentum and health and money and relationship health. I just go, wow, this works. When you really work, this way of this
it works
approach.
if you work it.
Yeah. I mean, we can actually be empowered to have a life that we enjoy, health that can support that life, and we can have a really good time doing it. Yeah.
I love that.
So I really appreciate so much you coming to give us a few of the tips. There's so much more to get out of you that I want to share that we'll do on future episodes if you'll come back. I'd love to have you talk to us some more. And I appreciate you sharing that you and I have worked together. We've collaborated in our lives. And as a result, we have discovered that if we take all of this physiology and all of the different kind of resources you pulled together for tests and for supplements and for red light and for your intuitive work on people's bodies with adjustment, and we physically take care of the machine, and then we mentally and emotionally continue to fine tune and adjust from the inside, there's nothing to block us from there. We're unlocked, we're opened up, we're ready to go, and we can really make the most of this life opportunity as good stewards. So I'm really, really excited about how we've been able to do that. Yeah. Thank you for coming to talk about it with me this morning.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Blessing. Yes, it's very fun. Thank you for joining me for this conversation. If you enjoyed the show, could you please like and subscribe so you never miss a new episode? And I'll see you next time.